Good evening, Bahrain. I'm Bernadette from Gulf Brands International, and you're watching Wine Online Wednesday. We're now on episode 8, and it's called The Three Malbecs. So for tonight, I've got 3 Malbecs for you, stating the obvious. The Malbec grape is not one of the classic grapes, the Cabernet Merlot, Shiraz, Sauvignon, Chardonnay that we'd all go for maybe as a first choice. It originated in France, probably around the 2nd century, and was known as Côte, and was found predominantly in the area of Cahors, which is found about halfway between Bordeaux and the south of France, the Pyrenees, in the plateau there before you reach the Pyrenees. At the time, it's a very thick-skinned grape, so it produces very dark wine and quite full-bodied wine at the time because it was rather roughly treated. So it continued for quite some while, and then part of the major development of the grape happened with quite a woman called Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor was quite a businesswoman. She also went on to marry a French king, an English king, and that did a lot for her export business, as you can imagine. And she introduced the Malbec grape, Côte as it was known at the time, into England, where the nobles in the High Middle Ages decided that this was very good wine because it was very strong wine. Time went by, and eventually we move ahead to the 18th century, and French immigrants moving over to South America brought with them the Malbec grape. Originally it started in Chile, where it had some success, and then it was brought into Argentina and to a very specific area called Mendoza, which is high above sea level. It's about 1,000 meters above sea level, and it's sitting tucked in under the mountains. So it started to be planted there, and it just thrived on this high altitude. So the weather there, you have hot days and cold nights. So this extreme of heat made it a long maturing grape and was giving great intensity of flavor. So we've got 2 wines tonight which are from Argentina. So that would be our Trapiche Pure Malbec and our Lorca Fantasia Malbec as well. So I think we're going to start with the pure. Okay, so here we go. So what are we looking for here? Color. We should have a really deep purple color. Yep, and in this case the color goes all the way out to the rim. You're not seeing any little transparent area around the edge. Now that's interesting because usually it can be a sign of a young wine, and this particular wine I think is an 2018. So it's still a baby. So yeah, lovely deep color. Let's see how we are on the nose. Tutti fruity. Red fruits, cherries, plums, yes, masses of red fruit. Let's have a sip. Oh, tutti fruity, juicy, very juicy. Very juicy, but not, the alcohol does a little mouthfeel, but the finish is short. It's the kind of wine we say, oh, that was nice, I think I'll have another sip. It doesn't linger long, but it's got a great concentration of fruit. The Trapiche winery is one of the oldest wineries. 1883 it was established, but for about 150 years or so, concentrated mostly on the local market, like most of the Argentinian wine business. In the last 20 years, the exports have really taken off, and Trapiche is winning many, many awards. It was voted in 2019 the New World Winery of the Year by Tim Atkin, who's a very prominent critic. And actually, for this baby here, he's awarded it 90 points, which they very proudly put on their neck label there. So I'm going to just bounce straight into the next wine, because I think it would be nice to have the two Argentinians side by side. So now we've got Lorca Fantasia. So Lorca is named after Maurizio Lorca, the winemaker, who's rather a young man, who founded his winery in 2002 after he worked with some of the leading wineries in Argentina. He learned a lot, soaked all the information in, and established his own winery. 2002, the winemaker for Pure Trapiche started making his wines. So it's quite interesting, they're working in tandem almost. Both from the same area, in the Uco Valley. We're getting some tannin. The juiciness is a little bit subdued. It's still there. If you tasted this wine by itself without tasting Pure, you would say it's juicy. This is why it's interesting to taste them side by side. The Pure, as the name suggests, has been made with no oak involvement whatsoever. Stainless steel fermentation, and then it goes into concrete vats, so it's really got no influence from the outside air whatsoever. So this is where this pure fruitiness comes through. Lorca, he just has a little bit, about 30% with oak, so it's not a heavily oaked wine. And this is why that little subtle spiciness can come through. After tasting it, when you go back to smell it, if you're a cigar smoker, you would understand a sweet cigar aroma. If you're not a cigar smoker, it probably sounds revolting. So just bear with me if you smoke cigars. It would be a gentle, maybe a little Partagas, yeah. There's just a little hint of that sweet tobacco. Okay, so I think those are two interesting Argentinian examples. And our next Malbec is from the other side of the world, Australia. Now, how on earth did it get to Australia? Again, winemakers travel the world, and down in, well, up North Victoria, the winemaker there, Frank Newman, was working for many years over in southeastern Australia with Penfolds, one of the icons of the Australian wine industry. He did very, very well, and then he decided to go and blaze his own trail. So he hopped over into North Victoria. He went to the Murray-Darling area, and he established a winery called La La Land. And this is in 2013. So we've had the long-established Trapiche, 1883. We've had Mauricio establishing his own winery, 2002. And here comes Frank in 2013. La La Land. So La La Land is quite a funky winery. He gathered some young upcoming winemakers around him and challenged them to produce fantastic wine from unoriginal grapes. So Malbec was a prime choice. One of the winemakers had spent some time in Argentina, and he said, I'm going to beat the first challenge. I'm going to make fabulous Malbec here. So the winery is literally on the shores of the Murray Valley. Nothing like the high elevation that these two wines have, 1,000 meters up in the Andes. So much lower, close to a river. So you've got a much more gentle climate. You still have hot days, and you have moderately cool nights. So the fruit will ripen that little bit faster. Let's see how this is. Ooh, juicy, juicy. I'm so keen to get to it, I forgot to look at the colour. The colour is much lighter than the Argentinians. It's it doesn't even look like an Argentinian Malbec, but this is 100% Malbec. And this has been oaked, but you can't taste the tannin of the oak. 30% oak here, and you get the tannin. Much higher percentage of oak here, and yet the juiciness just rolls over the tannin. Again, a short finish, which is signature of all these wines, which means that these wines are great with beef dishes, with barbecues, with, well, Argentina is the land of steak, and Australia is the land of barbecue. There you go, perfect wines for that kind of dining out. Pulled pork sliders. It's also very good with cheese, because you have your wine, you eat your cheese, and it doesn't fight with the cheese because of the short finish. And a challenge I'm probably going to take up this evening is it's also good with chocolate. So I've got some really good 95% cocoa chocolate, which I think I'm going to do a little taste test with these later. So I think these are typical of Malbec, but they've got a little quirkiness. So you've got the pure from Argentina, pure fruit, no trace of oak, high altitude, and a full flavour of fruit, full and round. Lorca, he's put a little bit more depth into it, a little bit more complex. I think the oak is bringing it there, and it's already, the tannin is starting to come out. This would be, if you like a traditional Bordeaux style Cabernet, you'd probably like this more. If you like a mellow Merlot, you might be more for this one. And I think this is a bit like a young juicy Shiraz, Australian style. But I think this would age quite well. I think we could come back to this in a couple of years, because the fact that it's been oaked, the tannin isn't even coming through yet. And these are all very young wines. This, I think, is 17, and the tannins aren't even coming through. So, 3 Malbecs, 3 tenors. It just so happens that it is 30 years and 2 weeks since the original 3 tenors had their concert in Rome the night before the World Cup final, taking to the stage where, for the first time they had ever sung together, Luciano Pavarotti, the big man with the powerful deep voice. I think I could almost imagine him wearing a tuxedo here, and I think the way he delivers, it is pure. Placido Domingo, always rated the consummate actor in all operas. He put heart and soul into not just the singing, the method acting, and I think this is the complexity that you get. I think Placido would be a Lorca man. And then we come to Carreras. Carreras was the fun-loving, he always took on the joyful parts, and I can see him having fun here with our Malbec from Australia. So I think the best way to end is the innovative winemakers of La La Land. As you can see here, they've got the Mad Hatter on their label. They go a little bit radical, and the Mad Hatter has a little quote on the bottle, and he says, "Deep or divine, rich or robust, madman or tenor, Malbec is a must." So, hope you enjoy your Malbecs tonight. Thank you.